So we're in chapter 2, section 2, part 3. This is the reinterpretation of defenses. And this, we're starting tonight's class at the paragraph that says there are many other so-called dynamic concepts. This is part 3 of reinterpretation of defenses. And this has been a very interesting section where it has literally been cataloging the defenses, the psychological defenses of our mind against truth. All the tricks that our mind plays to help us to run away from the truth. Okay, and apparently we're very, very creative with ways to run away from the truth. Okay, and so he's been cataloging, and then by the way, this is in the original edition, but not the edited version. Okay, so it's interesting that he's going through these psychological defense mechanisms. And the psychological defense mechanisms that we've gone through, I'm just going to list them for you. The first one is denial. Okay, that's the first thing we do. We just go into denial. The second one he covers is intellectualization. The next one was withdrawal. The next one was dissociation, detachment, flight, distanciation, distancing, regression, and sublimation. See how creative we are? I tell you what, there's just no end to our ability to come up with ways to run away from truth. Denial, withdrawal, regression, sublimation, right? Now, what was fascinating though about this section is that the voice of the Course here is telling us how to use every single one of those psychological defenses that we all employ as a way to defend the truth. Isn't that amazing? So he takes denial and says, now this is what you used to use in order to run away from the truth or your truth. Well, here's the way that Spirit shows you how to use denial. He goes, here's the way a right mind would use denial to protect its sanity. They would deny error. They would deny that error, meaning anything not of God, has the power to hurt you. He said that's the way you're supposed to use denial. And he goes through every single one of those psychological defense mechanisms and shows you how to use it to protect the truth, to defend the truth in your own mind. And then he goes on to say that, as a matter of fact, that defending the truth with these defenses is actually the way to protect your right mind or your mental health. Wow. Okay, isn't that interesting? And to me, it's fascinating because it wasn't in the edited version. Now, he says, and he goes on and he says, there are many other so-called, quote, dynamic concepts which are profound errors due essentially to the misuse of defenses. Okay? So, in other words, everything we just said, those are defenses. He goes, but that was the misuse of defenses. He taught us how to use defenses correctly, how to defend the truth. Okay? Then it says among these other so-called dynamic concepts, errors, is the concept of different levels of aspiration, which actually result from level confusion. He says, however, the main point to be understood from this section is that you can defend truth as well as error, and in fact, much better. Okay, so that's the whole point of everything, the whole section that we had read up until now. What's the point of hearing about all these myriad of psychological defenses that we use to hide the truth from ourselves? What's the point of that? Is this: you can defend the truth just as well or better than error. I love that thought. I'm going to stay on that thought for a minute, because to me it's really important. Because it's like this: I notice that I have this belief within me that tells me that there are some situations and some events that make it very difficult to apply the truth, much less remember the truth. Has anybody got a belief like that going on? Okay, well, it's easy to remember the truth when things are going nicely or smoothly, but when stuff comes up, I just cannot remember the truth at all. Does anybody relate to that? Okay, it's like, so there's a, there's a part of me whose desire for the truth is so weak that all it takes is a little teeny or a big upset for me to not defend the truth, but to throw it away, right? All it takes is the tiniest little thing, and I take all that truth that I've heard and I just chuck it. And I go, well, you know, no one can expect me to remember the truth when this is going on, when something like this is happening. And besides, everybody knows that this situation is much more powerful than the truth. The truth doesn't apply to this, right? That's how we operate now. That's how we operate now. Right now, we use our psychological defenses and we use the uncomfortable events of our experience to run from the truth, okay? And he's saying this, that the point of this is that you can defend the truth just as much as you defend your ego. In other words, when stuff happens that's uncomfortable and difficult, you can still remember the truth and use the truth as much as you have used the ego. Okay, so that's important. You can defend the truth as well as your ego and better. Wow. So there's nothing that can come up that you can't retain the remembrance of the truth, where you can't defend the truth. So it might look like something negative seems to be happening, and it's scary, and it's painful, and you don't know what to do, and you're confused. There is a way to defend the truth in that experience, just as much as you have been defending how right you are about how you deserve to suffer, how you're a victim, how nothing goes right for you, and on and on and on, okay? So all those statements, nothing goes right for me, see, I was right, see, I'm a victim again, look what happened to me again. That's ways that I'm defending my ego. I'm defending error. I'm defending error. See? Okay? And that's what, right now, when negative situations seem to happen to me, right now, I'm still in the habit of defending error and going, well, no one could expect me to apply the truth here, or obviously the truth doesn't apply to this. He's saying that you can defend the truth in any situation. You can defend the truth just as much. So now when a negative situation happens, I can go, see, nothing can keep from me the awareness of truth. See, nothing can happen the Holy Spirit can't correct for me if I'll let Him. See, okay? So now I'm using whatever happens to defend the truth, right? So now when stuff happens, my first response is, of course. Of course the ego would defend at this time. Of course the ego would bring some crap up. Of course it would. What am I doing? What I'm saying is, of course it would. Why? Because truth is present. Because awareness is present. Because I was loving. Because I was giving. Because I was waking up. Because I was letting myself think outside the box for myself. So, of course, the ego would try to show me something different. Of course, the ego would come up with some limitations. Now, that's an example of me defending the truth, where I used to defend my ego. Does that make sense?
So these are ways to, once we get to that place, the negative place, it's a way out of it.
Right.
We use our defenses for truth
Exactly.
to find our way out of it. It almost seems like perhaps I stopped defending truth is why I got there in the first place.
That's exactly right. I stopped defending truth, and that's how I got into the mess that I'm in. Exactly.
The only way out is to start.
And the only way out of the mess that I got in from trying to run away from truth and defend against the truth is to defend the truth. Now, it's an interesting concept, right? Because we hear all through the Course that the truth needs no defense. What's true needs no defense, right? But he's saying here that, look, you have made a very elaborate defense system. We call it your belief system. He said, you've made a very elaborate psychological system of defenses. We're very, very, very defensive. We don't just go, all is one with me and thank you, God. So beautiful. Right? We're like, judge, defend, judge, separate, analyze, separate, judge, analyze, separate, distance, project. It's all a defense. We're so defensive. When anything occurs, we don't just go, let all things be exactly as they were created. Thank you, God. Right? It's not our general attitude. We are very defensive. And we've developed an entire psychological system of belief and thoughts that's very defensive. It's not just accepting and grateful, right? So our teacher, genius that our teacher is, says, fine, now we're going to learn how to use all your defensiveness, all those habitual psychological habits of being defensive. We're going to use them in a new way, okay? So no one's asking you to not be defensive. No one's asking you to be like, oh, I accept all as it is. All is one with me. Thank you, God. No one's asking you to be like that now. You will want to be later because it just feels so good. But what our teacher is saying is let's use the automatic defense system that you think with now. And let's now be defensive for truth. Now, eventually, you won't need defense at all because truth doesn't need defense because it's true, right? No, whether you believe it or not. So now, when you have an experience of a defense come up, now we're going to use it. Our teacher's going to show us how to defend the truth. So no matter what happens, no matter what comes up, we're going to be like, okay, how do I use this for truth? How could this possibly be proving the truth to me? How could I possibly use this situation to demonstrate the truth? Or how could I possibly use this situation to remember the truth? What would the Course say? What would the Course say about this situation? What would the Course say about these things that I'm thinking? Right? This is how we are learning how to defend the truth, just like we used to defend the error. Can you imagine something came up and you're like, what would the truth say about this? And immediately you go into, how can I defend the truth in this situation? How can I use this to prove that the truth is true? Wow. Isn't that nice? All right. Hi, sweetie. It's in that bag. Just grab it and take it with you. Okay. Okay, so that was the point, that you can defend truth as well as error, and in fact, much better. Okay. So on that point, I want you to bring to your awareness something that has felt stressful, or what we might call a negative event, something that was stressful, difficult, or unpleasant. I want you to bring that to your awareness that has happened within the last 24 hours or so. Beautiful. And then I want you to ask yourself, what would it look like if I were to defend the truth in this situation? And what might I be thinking if I was defending the truth in this situation? How would would truth say about this? And how would this look through the eyes of love? And love, what does this situation look like to you? And love, what would you have me remember and learn in this situation? Use this situation for me to teach me that only the love and truth is true, still. Beautiful. Okay, so that's us learning how to defend the truth instead of run away from the truth and hide the truth from ourselves when we're in the midst of difficult situations. Any questions about that? Okay. All right. So then the next sentence completely anticipates exactly what the ego comes up with next. Okay? So it anticipates that the ego's going, oh no, that's hard to do. I mean, you don't know what I went through today. You can't just remember the truth in any situation. There's some situations where you can't remember the truth and you can't just use the truth and the truth doesn't apply. There's some situations really that really are more powerful than the truth. Really, really. I know my workbook lesson says use this lesson today and apply it to whatever happens, but this is an exception. This event is more powerful than the truth, right? And so he anticipates that defense of our ego, and that's why he says the means to do this. To do what? To defend the truth just as much as you defend error. The means to do that are easier to clarify after the value of the goal itself is firmly established. What does that mean? That means this. To your ego's response, to my ego's response, it goes, there are some situations the truth doesn't apply that are more powerful than the truth. There are some errors that are more powerful than the truth. He says, listen, the means to defend the truth in the face of any painful experience, the means to do that are easier to understand once the goal of doing that is firmly established. In other words, as soon as you want only the truth to be true, then the way to use the truth in any situation, no matter how frightening it is, the means, he says, will be totally easy to clarify as soon as you want it. In other words, okay, in this situation, this painful, scary, frightening situation, I want to see that truth is more powerful. I want to defend the loving, abundant, safe truth. I want the truth to be true here because this is scary, and I do not want that to be the truth. I do not want this painful, scary, lack-filled thing to be true. I don't want it to be true. I don't want the situation that makes me, that looks like it's proving that I'm weak and that I'm a failure. I don't want that to be true. I want to see the truth, show me the truth, and be more powerful here. Now, the minute I want that, then guess what? The means are easy. The means are easy. The means are easier to clarify after the value of the goal itself is firmly established. So it's like this. If you say to yourself, well, there's no way you can use the truth here. I got to use my ego in this situation. I can't just be loving. I can't just pray. I can't just apply my workbook lesson. I can't just ask for help. I can't say I want another way to look at this. If the means to defend the truth seem difficult or impossible, there's only one reason why. You don't really value the goal. That's the only, if you're telling yourself, this is hard, I can't do this is hard, I can't do this, I can't use the truth, I can't remember the truth, I can't use it in this situation, it's not because it's difficult. It's because the value of the goal of defending the truth in every situation, the value of that goal has not been firmly established. In other words, you don't want only the peace that comes from truth. You don't want the peace and the safety and the security that comes only from truth. That's why you say, the truth won't work here. And then when you believe the truth won't work there, then you do all your defenses. Withdrawal, repression, denial, intellectualization, distancing. They all come into play. Wow, interesting, huh?
Yeah, go back to feeling like comfortable.
Yes.
It's comfortable, it's nice.
Exactly. Exactly. And I love hearing that. I mean, that totally answers that part of us that really is into making exceptions and saying, well, the truth can work here, but not here. And the truth can work here, you know, like it's a sunny day and having a good day, I'm on vacation, it's the weekend. You know, truth works here, but not here, right? And, you know, and so, and this is reminding us that the only reason that you're seeing it that way is because you don't want peace yet. You're still valuing something, you're still valuing the error more than its correction, which is the truth.
Aren't we mostly valuing wanting to be right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to be correct in how I perceive this.
Even if it keeps us miserable, even if we die. I mean, listen, we really, really are dying to be right. Literally and figuratively. It's interesting. I mean, the Course is saying that every time you are miserable, suffering, in any way, shape, or form, it's because you are being blasphemous. Like, in other words, you are trying to prove yourself or your ego right. You're trying to defend your ego. Wow. And when I'm miserable, sick, poor, afraid, I'm trying to be right? Wow. Because if I wasn't trying to be right, what would I do? I would be defending truth. I'd say, I don't know what this means. I don't know what this is for. Here, love, you decide. You tell me what it means, love. You use it, love, please. Show me what it means. Decide for God for me. Decide for peace for me. Be you in charge, right? If I didn't want to be right? So, like the Course says, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? Right now, these are your choices. Now, at some point, you'll get to be right and happy, but first you have to choose to be happy first, right? And so each time we're suffering, the Course is saying, here's your choice, come again. What would you rather be? Right about how the world sucks and is painful and scary and uses you and you have to defend yourself against it? Or would you rather be happy and acknowledge that, hey man, you must be mistaken. If you're suffering, you must be seeing things wrongly, meaning not in accordance with reality, as love established it. So our first step out of the misery is go, you know, I think I'm willing to be wrong about everything. Because look, I am suffering here. I'm unhappy. I'm poor. I'm sick. I must be wrong about something. I must be so wrong about everything. So it's one of my favorite mantras that I use as my quick release. You know, when you're jumping out of a plane that's on fire and you do your parachute, go like that. When I'm suffering and I'm falling from that plane that's on fire, I'm like, I just say to myself, I have been wrong about everything. I just cover all my bases. I have been wrong about everything. I just go, and it's the truth. And it is literally, it feels like pulling my parachute cord. And immediately, it's like something's like, all right, now we can give you the correct perception. Now we can correct your perception. Wonderful. And then I get to just kind of float safely down to the ground, where if I hadn't pulled my parachute cord, my grip cord, I would have, right, head first. But my release is, and what enables Holy Spirit to save me, my crazy butt, is by saying, I have been wrong about everything. I do not know anything. I have been wrong about everything. I've been wrong about myself. I've been wrong about the world. I've been wrong about everything. How do I know? Because I had to bail out of a plane on fire, metaphorically speaking. Called my relationship, or my job, or this health condition, where the condition that I had manifested explodes. Right? It's on fire. Ain't no putting it back together again. And here I am. What are you going to do? You know, and now what are you going to do? Are you going to defend your ego that put you in that plane that blew up? Right? You defending your ego and how right you are about everything's going on and how they did it to you again. Are you going to defend that position that put you in that plane that exploded? Or are you going to defend the truth and go, you know, here's the truth. I don't know anything. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what anything means. And I must be wrong. And I would like another way of looking at it. What can I lose by asking? Because the way I had been believing it, the way I had been seeing it, got me up in a plane that exploded mid-flight. So I must be wrong. I would like another way of looking at this. What can I lose by asking?
So maybe a daily habit to where you could maybe get out of here before it gets that bad is pay attention. Am I making statements or asking questions?
Yes.
I mean, every time I'm saying it's this way, it means that that's my ego, and that's getting me in that point where all hell breaks loose. Versus, what does this mean?
Exactly.
Well, how do you see this?
That's a beautiful practice. That's a beautiful practice where you literally shift your consciousness so that you spend more time questioning, what does this mean? What is this for? What does this look like to you, Spirit? What do you have to say about this, Spirit? What's your will, God? Where you're staying more in the question that keeps your mind open than you are in, I can't believe this happened again, making statements, aka judgments.
That's me trying to write reality.
That's right. That's exactly. It's me trying to be right and write reality, write the story. Wow.
That's good.
Yeah, very nice. And then any spiritual practice that has you remembering every day that you really don't know what anything means. I mean, are you the author of reality? Are you?
Not me.
And given what you've written, do you really want to be the author of reality? I mean, the Gust of the Course says, really, be honest. Be honest with yourself. Do you like the reality of you've written? Are you really qualified to be the decider of reality for yourself and everyone around you? Are you really qualified? And do you want to? And ask yourself, and then so anyway, a spiritual program that every day reminds you that you are not the author of reality, and to thank God for that. I am not the author of reality. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. I did not write myself, and so I did not write myself, and so I do not have to believe myself anymore. I did not write myself, and so I do not have to believe myself anymore, especially if I'm telling myself things that are making me very scared and very miserable and very angry right now. Wow. So these are all ways that we're now learning how to defend the truth in a way we used to defend being right. It used to be that being right was all that mattered. Remember? Remember those days? Remember those hours ago? Golly, in my family, that was for sure the highest value. Was who could be the most right and who could defend their rightness the best. There was a megaton of intellectualization going on there. Wow. All right. So, shall we go on? Okay. Once the value of defending truth is established, the means to be able to do it in any situation are very easy to clarify. In other words, your teacher will be able to go, oh yeah, cancer, sure, here. The means to see it another way. Bloop. Oh, bankruptcy? Oh, here's the means to defend truth even in that. Here you go, easy. Where you're like, wow, whoa, okay, something really seeming serious and scary is going on. And Spirit just came in and went, oh, here's another way to look at it. And you're like, okay, wow, that's a miracle. Here I am in a situation where I would have been ready to go on medication, and next thing I know, I feel peace. My life just blew up. Okay, bye life. And I have peace. Right? And that's the miracle, in that the means to defend the truth in any situation are easy for Spirit to clarify. They're easy for your teacher to give to you if you want it. If you want peace. If you want happiness more than you want to be right about error or your ego, then Spirit has no problem whatsoever going, bankruptcy, no problem. Here, little cancer, oh, no problem. Here. Oh, your life just exploded in front of your eyes. Here. Here's the means for truth, for peace. Once you want it. And so if you're sitting here telling yourself, well, I can't apply the truth to this, and truth doesn't apply, I can't have peace in this situation. I can't have peace in that situation. Everybody knows I can't have peace in that situation. That's only because you don't value peace and truth above all else yet. Wow, isn't that interesting? Means aren't difficult. The means aren't difficult. The means aren't difficult for your teacher. The means aren't difficult to give you to your teacher as soon as you want it. Wow. Wow, okay. So as soon as you want it, then as soon as you want truth, then any situation, it will be easy for you to defend the truth. Right? You'll still go, oh, look how the truth is operating here. Look how the truth is operating here. How beautiful. Okay. Any questions before we go on? Does that make sense about once the value of the goal is established, then the means will be easy to clarify? Does that make sense? All right. So don't say it's difficult. Don't say it's impossible. Just think about, what do I want? What do I want? All right. Here we go. Then it says, everyone defends their own treasure. You don't have to tell them to defend their treasure, because people will defend their treasure automatically. So the real questions still remain. What are the real questions that still remain? This is the real questions that still remain. There's two of them. What do you treasure? And how much do you treasure it? Okay, these are the two questions that remain. What do you treasure? And how much do you treasure it? And once you have learned to consider these two questions, what does that mean? That means to bring these two questions into all your actions as what? As the true criteria for behavior. Then our teacher says, I will have little difficulty in clarifying the means, meaning providing the means. Okay, so that's beautiful. I'm going to stop here and clarify that, okay? Okay, so first of all, he just gave us something really, really, really valuable and really practical, okay? The criteria, the true criteria for behavior. Wow, how practical is that? The true criteria for behavior. In other words, the two questions to ask before you do anything. Interesting. Notice he uses the term true behavior. That's in the original, not the edited. I'm like, that's an interesting phrase or an interesting concept. True behavior. Like behavior that comes from truth. You know, how does truth behave? Oh, your truth was very well behaved today. What a pleasure to babysit for your truth today. She was very well behaved. The criteria for true behavior. Okay, so if you ask yourself these two questions before you act, before you behave, because remember, behavior is action. If you will consider these two questions, then you will be able to behave from truth. Interesting. And what are those two questions? What do I treasure? And how much do I treasure it? Okay. What do I treasure? And how much do I treasure it? Okay. So, because again, once I have clarified what it is that I value, what it is that I want, once I have decided that peace is what I want, and then I decide how much do I want it? I want it a lot. Okay? Then Spirit has little difficulty, very little difficulty in providing the means. Once I know what I want, and I establish that that's what I want, then Spirit's like, great, here's the means. Interesting. But if you haven't clarified what it is that you treasure and how much you treasure it, then it doesn't matter what Spirit does. You are not going to recognize it, value it at all. Isn't that interesting?
What I take it from that is just like you're like giving yourself permission to like be aware. Like as soon as you ask that, you've now given yourself the permission to like...
That's exactly right. As soon as you say, okay, I don't know what to do, don't know what to do, or what should I do in this situation, or hey, there's a choice I got to make in this situation, you know, and you say to yourself, what do I treasure, and how much do I treasure it? You're never going to answer that question and go, well, I treasure a lot of pain, and I treasure a lot. You're not going to ever answer that question, I treasure pain, right? You're going to say something like, I treasure, you know, union or peace or, you know, oneness or giving or something. You're going to identify your positive treasure, what you really treasure. And then when you remind yourself how much you want it, now you're becoming one-minded. Now you're split mind. And that big old fat gap between your split mind goes like this, right? He says, and once you clarify, what do I want and how much do I want it? Then Spirit's like, great, I'll handle it. I'll provide the means. All I wanted you to identify is, what do you want? What do you treasure? Right? You know, and then in the edited version it says, your heart is where your treasure is. okay? And I like bringing that in here because when you're asking yourself, what do I treasure? It's always going to be something of your heart, right? You know, the heart is where you treasure something, right? I love it, I treasure it, okay? So he's saying that that's what we need to be asking. Those are the two questions to ask ourselves as the criteria for true behavior. So that whatever action we take in this situation, whatever the situation is, our behavior can be guided by truth. Wouldn't that be nice? I would love to have all my behavior guided by truth. I would love that. Do you know how much more peaceful my life would be? I would actually go toward people who appreciated and wanted me. I would actually be attracted to the doors that were actually open. Imagine that. Instead of being attracted to the doors that were slammed shut, or be attracted to people who didn't really want me, right? Okay, that's ego behavior. That's false behavior, where your behavior and your actions take you into places that don't want you or aren't open and, aren't available, right? So he says, once you have learned to consider these two questions and bring them into all your actions. God, what if we actually asked ourselves those two questions and brought them in to all our actions?
Well, that requires that treasure part.
That's right.
First, you have to be honest. Because if you're not honest with yourself, you're going to make something up and
That's
you're
right.
going nowhere.
Okay.
And each of these treasures that we have made, it's either an idol or it's like truth and love.
That's right.
So all these various idols are all kind of the same thing. It's
That's
something other than
Exactly.
what is.
Exactly.
And of course it varies how much we treasure it, but we've always, every time it hurts, we have treasured an idol of some
That's
sort.
exactly right. I like what you said. I mean, the truth, if you were to say, what do I treasure? It gets you honest. It's like an honest scrape. It makes you get honest.
You have to say to yourself, I have made this everything to me, rather than God is
Right.
everything. Just this one thing is all I want more than
That's right.
I want peace.
This thing will be everything to me.
And just the realization of how big we have made something sometimes can just about blow you away.
Absolutely.
Because you don't even realize how much invested you are.
Until you ask that, until you bring that question into all your actions. Wow. And he says, and when you do that, once you have learned to ask these questions, so notice it's something you got to learn, okay? What does that mean? It means once I have made a habit, once I have made or established that habit of asking myself those questions, when I'm considering taking an action, he says, into all your actions as the true criteria for behavior, then our teacher says, then once you have learned to do that, then I will have little difficulty in clarifying the means. And then, of course, he states the obvious, you have not learned to be consistent about this as yet. Consistent? I haven't even, started, much less been consistent. I don't even do it once a month yet. That's right, teacher. I have not become consistent at that yet. That's what it means to learn something, by the way. What does it mean to learn something? It means you're consistent about it. You are consistent about it. That means you have learned it. Okay? We have not learned it. We have not become yet consistent about it. Okay? Then he says, I have therefore, says our teacher, I have therefore concentrated on showing you that the means are available whenever you ask. Nice. That's what our teacher has concentrated on. Showing you the means are available. The means for what? The means to have peace, even here, even now. The means are available whenever you ask. Wow. He says, in other words, and he says, the means are available whenever you ask to have peace in any situation. He says, however, you could save a lot of time if you do not extend this step or protract this step unduly. What am I saying? The correct focus will shorten this step immeasurably. Okay, right. So, in other words, save yourself time. Don't protract, extend out, protract that step more than you need to. In other words, you're being given the criteria for true behavior that will save you so much suffering. It will save you so much suffering, so much pain. It will save you so much time. You can take your suffering and just collapse it. It will save you so much pain and suffering if you'll just learn how to be consistent about applying this criteria for true behavior and learn how to do it. And the correct focus will shorten this time immeasurably. I love it. What saves time? The correct focus. I would like to save myself some time. Right? I would like for this to happen, that the peace that you say I can have in any situation, I would like it to happen now. I would like to say, I don't want to wait till next week. I don't want to wait till retirement. I don't want to wait till I find the right job. I don't want to wait till I find the right person. I don't want to wait till I have no money concerns. I want it now. I don't want to draw it out. I've already drawn it out long enough. He says the way to save time and the way to shorten time so that you can have it now is the correct focus. Wow. Now, what's the correct focus? What do you want? What do you treasure? And how much do you treasure it? That's the correct focus. Interesting.
So this is where, I guess where he's asking us to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
What do I really think this will bring me? And will it really bring me that?
Yes, right.
Oftentimes our treasure is something we think is going to make us change how we feel about ourselves.
That's right.
Even though it never can.
Right.
But we think it will.
Exactly. And when you ask yourself those two questions, it totally wakes you up to whether you've been treasuring an idol that will only cost, and never repay, or something that is truly of value and will always give, and never ask, never take. Once you ask yourself those two questions and you correct your focus, then you always go, oh, I've been treasuring an idol, and that's not what I treasure. I don't treasure money. I don't treasure power, fame, money, and physical pleasure. That's not my treasure. Like, if you were to ask somebody, anybody, what do you treasure? Do you really think they would say money, power? You know, even if they did, they wouldn't say it. Because in that moment, they would be like, no. You know, because in that moment, they would recognize that, no, really, their treasure was love, or family, or peace, or whatever, right? So when you ask yourself those questions, when you correct your focus before you take action, it is going to get you honest, and it is going to show up any false values that you hold, and it will purify them. That's the correct focus that shortens your suffering time immeasurably.
I think you have to get to unlearn. I mean, ultimately our heart wants peace, but our mind, our ego mind has tricked our heart into what we do want. Because you put out that questionnaire, what do you want? Ultimately, even a lot of people will say they want peace or love or whatever, or truth. But a lot of people will say money, or they will say a great relationship, or they will say those things because they don't. They think that it's so simple to say peace, or that our minds are so wired in such a way that this unpeaceful world, peace is not available.
Right.
So I'll take the next best thing.
Right, exactly. And I know, so notice that the author uses the word treasure, which for me, like, takes it from the head and takes it to the heart, because we associate, you know, we say your heart is where your treasure is, where your heart is, or your heart is where your treasure is. You know that phrase?
Right.
You know, so I like how it says, what do you treasure? It doesn't say, what do you want?
Right.
You know, because you're right, the want is more of like an intellectual
Right. Want
head
is
thing.
Getting something.
Exactly. Treasure is something that maybe is already in your heart, that's already there. You know, so I like the choice of words.
And as if you had to have experienced at one point.
Exactly.
To treasure it.
For it to be your treasure,
Right.
you already had to experience it. It has to be already within you.
Right.
You know.
Something you already hold.
Yeah, something you already have. Because, you know, what do you treasure? That's something you already have. That's a really good point.
You have
That's
to
nice.
unlearn what you wanted to
That's
discover
right.
once again what you
Exactly. And you have to get honest about what you thought you wanted so that you can unlearn what you want, what you thought you wanted. So you're unlearning what you thought you wanted. By what? By asking yourself what you treasure.
Well, and there are those things that you mention them quite often, the power, fame, and physical pleasure.
Power,
status.
fame, money, and physical pleasure. PFMPP.
Those are all just symbols. None of them are anything in and of itself.
That's right.
They're just symbols of safety
That's
and
right.
acceptance.
That's exactly what they are.
And
Symbols of safety
If
and
you'll get in
acceptance.
touch with what you're really after,
Mhm.
instead of chasing the symbol, then I think you're ahead of the game right
That's
there.
exactly right. I mean, what people are really seeking through power, fame, money, and physical pleasure is peace, security, safety, love, union, right? Why do they want the power, fame, money, and physical pleasure?
For those
For what they
things.
think that it'll give them, which is their real treasure. The peace, the union, the joy, the safety, the security that can only come from truth. You know, it's like what we really want, what we all want in our heart, what we all really treasure is something that only comes from truth. The joy you want comes from knowing the truth about yourself. The peace you want comes from knowing the truth about yourself. Right? The safety and the security comes from knowing the truth about the universe, about God. Right? That's the two things that are being rewired into my brain these days. I'm aware of. It's like safety, peace, joy, union, abundance, truth. Like it's being wired. Like everything you want comes from truth. The truth about God, the truth about you, the truth about the universe, the truth that God established in His limitless love.
So what we're saying about we all really want the same thing, that the goal remains the same, but what we learn is what the inappropriate means.
That's right.
We learn that we won't get it through money, power, fame, physical
That's
pleasure.
exactly right.
We've
You
been-
learn that you only get it through truth. And so then all of a sudden, truth becomes what you treasure. And so listen, when truth becomes your treasure because you are learning what truth offers, the result of truth, now in any situation, you're going to say, truth, I want the truth. What I treasure is truth, and I treasure it a lot, above all else. And then your teacher has no problem in providing all the means to do what? To demonstrate that the truth is still true. You're still safe, you're still loved, you're still loving, you're still innocent, you're still pure, you're still worthy, you're still valuable, you still have something to give, your gift is still very, very valuable, it's needed. the teacher has no problem showing you the truth, even in this situation in which you thought you were doomed. Why? Because you said, I value truth above all else, and I value it a lot above all else. That's what I want. In this situation, what is the truth, Spirit? Truth? I mean, teacher, what is the truth here? I just want to know the truth about me and this situation right now. Okay? And the teacher goes, great, I will show it to you. I don't have any issue with whatever situation you're in. I don't have any problem demonstrating the truth in any situation. Not this, not that, not that, no problem. I was just waiting for you to want it. Wow, it's beautiful. Okay, any questions before we go on? Okay, so up to now he's been talking about all of our psychological defenses that we have become so ingenious in devising. And he's talked about all the ways to use our psychological defenses as a way to defend the truth in any situation. Now he's going to talk about a defense, a psychological, spiritual defense that we didn't make, that's not man-made. Okay? So he took all of our man-made psychological defenses and goes, okay, fine, let me just show you how to use them to defend the truth, okay? Don't have to like get a lobotomy. Just take all the defenses that you already made up. Here's how you use them for truth. Then he goes, here's a defense that wasn't made by man, right? And this is a defense that was made for us and given to us. That is a defense that we can't misuse, right? The only thing we can do is go, no, I won't use that right now. Maybe later, after I've suffered a little more. Maybe after I've proved myself right a little bit more. But now he's going to talk about the defense that was not man-made, that was given us. Okay? And the defense plan that was not man-made and given us, the Course in Miracles calls the atonement. Okay? And the atonement is a defense, something that you can use, that was given to you, that you can use to defend the truth better than you used to use, you used to defend your ego. Okay? So now he's going to talk about this defense that can't fail, and that we can't, it's not two-edged, it can't hurt us. The worst you could do is just not use it to defend your own truth, to defend your peace. But should you want to keep your peace, and should you want the truth and all the truth gives you, truth about yourself, the universe, and others, should you want it, this defense will enable you to defend the truth and defend your peace miraculously in any situation, no matter how dire, should you want it. And it's called the atonement. Okay? So now he's going to tell us about this plan. Now, as you're reading along with me, one of the things I like to do with the word atonement is I like to put in the word the Course, or A Course in Miracles. Okay? You don't have to do that. It doesn't say to do that, but it does say that A Course in Miracles is one manifestation of the atonement. Okay? The atonement is a plan. The atonement is a splendid defense that you can't misuse against yourself. You can not use it, but you can't misuse it, okay? And the Course in Miracles, for me, is the thing that lays out the plan, right? Okay, so the Course in Miracles is a manifestation of the atonement, okay? The atonement principle was in effect long before A Course in Miracles. But the Course in Miracles is one physical manifestation of the atonement. So when I read it, so that I don't have old references to atonement in my head when I read it, I don't like those old references to atonement. You know, you hear the word atonement, what do you think? You're doomed. You need to atone. Oh, I do? Oh, that doesn't sound fun. You know, what do you think when someone says you need to atone? Ew, that's not gonna be fun at all. That's gonna be painful. Sacrifice is gonna be asked of me, right? You know, I mean, for me and, you know, being raised Jewish, we had a whole day of atonement. And let me tell you, it was no fun. You fasted, can't eat, can't wear leather, that was a real drag. You know, you go and you do like this, and you literally beat your chest all day long and say all the sins you've done. Wow.
Or you could use the same letters, make it the at one.
Yes, which is much improvement, much improved.
Yeah.
So for me, because the Course in Miracles is a manifestation of the atonement plan, it lays it out. Here's the plan. Here's the plan. Here's the Course in Miracles. I'm holding up the Course in Miracles book. See? Everybody see it? Here's the plan. Here's a defense program that enables you to defend your peace and your truth in any situation, and to transform any situation into a demonstration of how the truth is always more powerful than error. Here's the plan, right? And so the Course in Miracles as a manifestation of the atonement, or one version of the atonement. And so a lot of times when I'm reading it, it says atonement, I just say the Course, okay? So, long explanation for that. So it says the atonement, now we're in paragraph 36. The atonement is the only defense which cannot be used destructively. It's a defense, can't be used destructively. And that is because while everyone must eventually join the atonement, or the plan, the Course is not a device which was generated by man. Okay, now I don't think it says that in the edited version. I like that. The atonement principle, or the principles of the Course, were in effect long before the Course itself began. The principle of the atonement, or the principles of the Course, are love. And the atonement or the Course itself was an act of love. But acts weren't necessary before the separation because the time-space belief did not exist. That's interesting. The time-space belief did not exist before we went to sleep. Oh, the time-space belief. Oh, isn't that funny? He goes time and space. Notice also, he combines time and space as it's one thing. He goes time, space. Time dash space. It's one thing. The time-space belief. Okay, the Course just called time and space a belief. Okay, let's just put that aside for a moment. The time-space belief says only came into being after we fell asleep. Oh, I see. Then it says, it says acts or a plan or the Course was not necessary before the separation because the time-space belief did not exist. It was only after the separation or the detour into fear that the defense of atonement or the Course and the necessary conditions for its fulfillment were planned. Wow. Interesting.
It's just a map
It's a
for
map.
our way home.
Exactly, it's a
And
map.
we were home before.
It's a map back home, or it's a plan by which to wake back up, right? So when you read the Course, you literally are following the map or the plan by which to wake back up, right? Or to come back home. To what? To the awakened state. It is not your natural state to be snoozing through eternity. That is not our natural state. That's not natural. Okay? That's unnatural. It's natural for us to be awake, right? So this is our plan or our map back to being awake or back home.
I find it amazing that, most of us believe in time and space. I mean, we think that is real. I do anyway.
Yeah, I do too.
And he
It's all
just
yours.
calls it a
Yeah.
belief. Doesn't say that time and space came about, just the belief.
No, I know, it didn't say it happened,
Yeah, it's
it just says it's a belief. It didn't say it was real.
yeah.
The Course does say that time and space is a vast illusion. It's a trick, it's a sleight of hand. Boy, I tell you what, do we have some profound surprises waiting for us beyond ego, beyond the body, or what? I mean, come on, there's gonna come a day when we're gonna go poop, and time, and he says, we're gonna wake up like this. He goes, and then you're gonna look behind you, and time and space, he says, is going to roll up like a long carpet behind you, like that, and kick you in the butt. And you'll be like, where'd it go? He goes, you will look behind you and you will see time and space roll up like a long carpet behind you, like this. You'll see it was only attached, like you were dragging it along. It was like a tail, you were dragging it along. And you'll look behind you and it will roll up behind you and be gone. And boy, are we going to be surprised. We're going to be like, wow, I had no idea. And here I was, wasting my life away in fear and worry about what was happening in time and space. And I did that for how many lifetimes? Oh well, mistakes are for correction. What's next? He says you'll have barely a second to go, what? I did what? For how long? He says you'll have barely a second. Andrew says that. Barely a second to go, what? And then that's it. And you'd be like, ah.
Yeah, and you want any time in the world.
And then you're like, oh, I have all the time in the world, and nothing to fear, and nothing to defend, nothing to lose, and everything to gain. Wow. And then we'll be experiencing heaven, because heaven is a state of mind where there's nothing to lose and everything to gain, and all the time in the world that we call eternity to experience. Wow. Doesn't that sound nice? I can't imagine, but it sounds nice. So, but this course is only concerned with the practical, so we don't need to waste too much time in thinking about that. Don't worry. We know we can't understand it, we can't relate to it, we can't conceive of it, that's fine. We're not supposed to. All we're supposed to do is focus on the practical. What would it take right now to defend the truth as much and more than I used to defend the ego? Okay, that's the practical that's on hand for us to follow the plan to do. All right, we're going to stop here for tonight. Oh, what a great section. So, don't forget to check out my website, Kujawa.com, to learn about my holistic counseling practice and how to schedule a Miracle Psychotherapeutic session with me by phone or Skype. Thank you. And thank you guys for your expressions of financial appreciation called donations. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I deeply appreciate them. And so does the center. Thank you. All right. So now, any questions or comments before we close up? Anything that you heard that seemed practical? Anything? This seems like something, I'd like to use that sometime.
What Jim said was that struck me about, living in the question.
Yeah, living in the question. Absolutely. Very nice. Anything else is impractical?
Every time I'm upset, I find I've been telling myself something.
Yes.
This is true.
Yes. Instead of asking questions
Never
of
ask.
spirit, I've been telling myself something. Nice.
You're just repeating your perception, trying to make it more and more real.
Exactly. Thank you.
What really struck me is when you first started talking about defending the truth and defending the ego, and we're trying to get rid of the ego, and I had such a feeling of You mean I've been defending the ego all this time when I've justified, you know, what was happening, you know? And that's what I was doing. I
Yeah.
was defending the
Uh-huh.
ego, and that didn't make me feel very good.
Yeah, yeah. That's part of the getting honest thing. Recognizing that I spend most of my time defending my ego. And we were saying that defending the ego shows up as defending being right. Instead of asking, you know, what this means of spirit,
And
of
you
love.
asked us to think of an instant in the last 24 hours, and I had one where I really lost my cool, and told somebody, you know, what I really thought. And now I feel like, you know, I'd apologize, because if I had stopped and said, you know, what do I really
What do I value?
instead of,
Yes.
you know,
Yes, exactly. And if you had stopped and said, what do I treasure and how much do I treasure it, then the means to have maintained your peace in that situation would have been provided easily. Wow. And we haven't learned to be consistent about that yet. We haven't learned to be consistent in applying the criteria for true behavior in all of our actions. But that's what we're learning. That's what learning means.
Instead of giving somebody a piece of your mind, you give them a piece of your heart.
Yeah, there you go.
Very
That's
nice.
great.
Very nice. Amen. That's a line from one of my all-time favorite songs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you heard that song?
No.
Okay. I'll have to turn on to it. Awesome. Anything else?
Well, something I realized that I've been doing lately, and this has really been good for me to come tonight, is that I think I've been looking for things that people do wrong.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Yes.
And,
We love those things.
I never thought I was that kind of person.
Of course, because you're a nice
I
girl.
was so
You're
self-righteous.
such a
you
nice
know.
girl. I know.
But then when I realized that's what I really was doing,
Yep.
was every time I caught somebody doing something wrong, I had to point it out to
Oh,
them.
yeah, honey, that's our treasure. Yeah, that's
That I thought
valuable.
was wrong.
Oh, yeah, honey. Listen, other people's errors were very valuable.
That would keep me from seeing mine.
Exactly. Hey, listen, other people's errors are the ego's treasure. And it values them a lot.
And the more you see yourself as right, the more you see everybody else is wrong.
That's right. That's exactly right. And so the more right you become, the more lonely you...
I was gonna say, that's a pretty lonely split.
Exactly. That's right. Exactly. And we've been willing to pay that price of being right. I don't care if being right means I gotta be alone, you know, until you are alone, and then you're like, I don't know, that's not really worth it. No, it's not really worth it. I'd give up some of my rightness just to have a mighty companion right about now.
Well, this is a justification for this action, because I have a number of children, and I always thought I was supposed to make them perfect.
Yeah,
So
correct
I
them.
was, you know, tell them when they were doing things wrong. I told them when they did things right, too. I never,
But funny, that didn't happen as much. Right.
and I thought I was doing something right.
Yeah, because that's what we learned. That's what we learned. And no guilt, because mistakes are for correction, and, you know, and that mistake can be corrected right now if you want. If you really value peace more than guilt.
Yeah, because if you teach them how to get in touch with their own treasure, instead of telling them what to do, then that rebellion goes away.
Exactly.
You know, because if you tell somebody what to do, their first reaction is
To not do it. Absolutely. That's ego 101.
yeah.
I only control me, right?
Exactly. I only get to put me down and give myself bad advice.
Right.
That's for me to do.
That treasure thing was really good.
Yeah. And what if you taught your children hey man, you know, before you, I can't tell you what to do, but I can tell you what my guide for action is. Before I do anything, I ask myself, what do I treasure and how much do I treasure it? And, you know, and then now they have that, you know, and then now they can use it for themselves when they want peace, you know, about being right. Yeah. Whew, all right, so let us do our closing integration meditation for a couple of minutes here. And what we're going to do is we're going to use it somehow. All right. So this piece is called All I Need is Love. No, All I Need. Okay. All right. All right, so I want you to close your eyes. Then just tune into how you feel right now. How does it feel tonight to have valued and treasured truth? And you had to have treasured truth tonight to come here and to where the truth is being spoken. So how does it feel? How does it feel to treasure truth? First, I want you to bring to your awareness a situation where some action seems to be required, where you feel like you've got to do something. You got to make a choice. You got to make a decision about some action, and you feel confused, and you feel afraid, and you feel guilty. I want you to bring that situation to your awareness. A situation where you're like, what should I do? And I want you to ask yourself, in this situation, I want you to ask yourself, what do I treasure? What do I treasure? What do I really want above all else? In my heart of hearts, what do I treasure? And how much? Would you answer? Let your soul answer that question. All I need is truth. Identify what it is that you really treasure and how much you treasure it. I want you now to listen as your teacher will clarify the means to experience that and only that in this situation. Listen, listen as your teacher clarifies the means to have that. And only that. Listen. Thank your internal teacher. Thank your internal teacher who's always there, ready, willing, and able to provide the means for you to experience your treasure in any situation. Thank you, teacher. Beautiful. And then when you're ready, just take a breath and bring your awareness back to the room and back to the body. Yay! Yay,
Thank
Truth. All right.